there, he said that the Bible commanded youth to honor their fathers, which made me pretty nervous for Sam because it was a sin to shout at your father the way he had done, and maybe God would punish him for it. I didn't think that God would strike him down with a bolt of lightning or anything like that. I knew that God could shoot bolts of lightning if he wanted to, but I didn't believe that he ever did. What worried me was that maybe God would punish him by getting him bayoneted by a lobster back. I knew that God did things like that because I saw it happen once. A farmer from the center came down here one Sunday very drunk and rode his horse through the burying ground, and when Mr. Beach told him to get out, he told Mr. Beach to go to H-E double toothpicks and started to gallop his horse at Mr. Beach. But before the horse got more than 3 paces, he tripped on a headstone, and the farmer fell off and broke his neck and was dead a minute later.
Man.
It's a true story. There were scores of witnesses. So I knew that God could get Sam if he wanted to, and between worrying about that and being confused over which side was right, I couldn't concentrate on church much. I just wanted to get out of there. But Mr. Beach always preached at least an hour, and being fired up about Lexington battle, he went on longer. Fortunately, he always had to get back to Newton to conduct service there in the afternoon, so finally he had to stop. And we finished up the service, and I breathed a sigh of relief and got up and started to file toward the stairs. I was nearly there when somebody touched me on the arm. I turned around. It was Tom Worrups. Tom didn't look much like an Indian. He wore the same kind of brown shirt and trousers any farmer around Reading wore, and he spoke pretty good English too. "Hello, Tom," I said. He didn't say anything, but he clutched me by the arm and sort of held me back while the others filed past us down the balcony steps. And then he said in a low voice, "If I tell you where Sam is, you don't tell nobody?" He looked at me hard and squeezed my arm. Not enough to hurt, but enough so I knew he could hurt me if he wanted. "Is he up at your place, Tom?" "You don't tell nobody, Timmy. You get Tom in trouble." "I won't tell Tom." I wouldn't either. Tom scared me. He let go of my arm, turned and went down the stairs. I came along behind him. My parents were standing out front of the church, talking to people. It was always the same. Church was practically the only time we ever saw some of the farmers from farther out in the parish. Places like Umpqua, they wanted to keep us up with the news, and Father always spent some time with them. It was good business, Father said, to be cordial with people. I knew they wanted me to stand around and be cordial too, so I did, but mostly Jerry Sanford and I threw stones at each other until Father caught us up and made us stop. I was impatient to go see Sam, but of course I had to pretend I wasn't in any hurry to go anywhere, and the talk dragged on, all about the war and what might happen, and finally my parents got done talking and we started to cross the street. "Father," I said, "Jerry Sanford wants me to help him carry up a big log from the woodlot." "Oh, that's breaking the Sabbath," he said. "Well, it won't take very long." He just shrugged. I guess he had too many other worries on his mind to get upset about that. So instead of going into the tavern, I turned and went up the road to Sanford's house. As soon as I got past it, so nobody could see me from the tavern, I climbed over the stone wall into Sanford's pasture and began running across the fields toward Colonel Reed's house. It was a couple of miles there going around the roads, but by cutting across through the fields, I could make it in 15 minutes. Better yet, it brought me in from the rise behind the house where Tom Worrup's shack was.
It's down, Felicia, for dismissal.
Thank you. If anyone from the Reed's house saw me go up to Worrup's, they'd want to know why. I jogged along quickly. I was pretty nervous about lying to Father and about what Sam was doing, but it being such a beautiful day helped me to feel better. The sun was warm on my shoulders, birds twittered, and there was just that spring smell of mud and grass in the air. I jogged along, not thinking about anything very much, and 15 minutes later, I came upon Warup's shack. It was made in the Indian way of the circle poles stuck in the ground with their tops bent together and tied. Covering the poles were hides and rags, and in some places, patches of straw thatch. Does it remind you of anything?
The huts that they all
Good, and blood of the river, and maybe some of you remember seeing when we went to Jamestown. There was a thin trail of smoke coming out of the top, where the poles met. The door was just a hole in the side covered with a blanket flap, but the flap had been pulled aside to let light in. I ducked down and looked through the hole. Sam was sitting on the ground with Betsy Reed, holding hands. They looked pretty serious. "Hello, Tim," Betsy said. "Hello," I said, slipped inside and hunkered down by the fire. The fireplace was just a circle of stones in the middle of the floor. There was a bed made of a couple of deer hides stretched across a frame, a few pots and pans, and not much else. I can't stay long. I told Father I was helping Jerry Sanford move a log. "Oh, Father," he said. He sounded bitter. "I heard your fight." "I'm too old for him to tell me what to do anymore," Sam said. "Well, this morning he said you were full of college boy wind." "That's 'cause I wouldn't obey him." He picked up a stone and began jiggling it from one hand to the other. "I guess he's still mad at me." "He cried last night after you left, Sam. Maybe he knows something about wars that you don't." Nobody said anything for a minute. I picked up a stick and I began to push it in the fire to see it burn. And then Betsy Reed said, "Timmy, are you on your father's side or Sam's?" I wish she hadn't asked me that question. I didn't want to answer it. In fact, I didn't know how to answer it. "I don't understand what it's all about," I said. "It's simple," Sam said. "Either we're going to be free or we're not." Betsy touched his arm. "It isn't that simple, Sam. There's more to it." "Oh, what side is your family on, Betsy?" I asked. We're all patriots. After all, my grandfather is head of the militia." Another name we need to put up on the continental side. "Her grandfather was Colonel Reed. Her father was Colonel Reed's son, Zaman Reed. They lived not far from Colonel Reed." "Is your grandfather going to fight the lobsterbacks?" Okay, we're going to stop there, boys and girls. We'll finish up tomorrow on page 34.
That was good, child.